Namaloke Purushartha Saravit. Pura Kathanam Bhagavat Katha Sudham. Apiya Khananjali Bir Bhava Phalam. Aho Virajeta Vinanadetaram. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The narration of the activities of the personality of Godhead is like a constant flow of nectar. No one can refuse to drink such nectar except one who is not a human being. Devotional service to the Lord is the highest goal of life for every human being, and such devotional service begins by hearing about the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Only an animal, or a man who is almost an animal in behavior, can refuse to take an interest in hearing the transcendental message of the Lord. There are many books of stories and histories in the world, but except for the histories or narrations on topics of the personality of Godhead, none are capable of diminishing the burden of material pangs. Therefore, one who is serious about eliminating material existence must chant and hear of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Otherwise, one must be compared to the non-humans. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Appearance of Lord Varaha. Hare Krishna. I am very grateful to be among all of you. Gathered together according to a tradition that Srila Prabhupada established 60 years ago, 1966. The Sunday Feast Lecture. Thank you for coming. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 13, entitled The Appearance of Lord Varaha. Text 50. In this chapter, Swayambhuva Manu is praying to Lord Brahma, his father and his guru, for the instruction of how to serve him, and by pleasing him, how to please the Supreme Personality of God. And then he took note that the planet Earth was lying at the bottom of the Garbhodak Ocean. upon seeing this, Swayambhuva Manu was appealing to Brahma to help all the living beings who are residing on Mother Earth. Brahma, the unparalleled, most powerful person is in the entire universe. Observe the situation. Try to create a solution. It wasn't something theoretical. He's Father, his children, and Mother Earth. They are in a very, very desperate situation. Srila Prabhupada in this regard writes in purport, sometimes great devotees, even confidential servitors of the Lord, are perplexed in how to execute their prescribed duties. But they are never discouraged because they have faith. They have faith in the protection and ultimately the supreme will of the Lord. So Brahma took shelter. This is very much the very heart of Bhagavad Gita. How to seek shelter of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita explains in Srimad Bhagavatam in more intimate detail how to take shelter of the Lord. Krishna tells it, Daiviyeshu gunamayi. This material world is a difficult place for all of us. It's not that the world changes. Our happiness, our hope, our future destiny is not determined by what happens to us or who does what to us, but how we respond. Do we respond in the mode of ignorance, tamaguna, rajaguna, sattvaguna, in such a way that we assure very, very violent karma upon ourselves? Suffering or future happiness? Or by taking shelter of the Lord, not only freedom from the pangs of material existence, but the supreme happiness of the soul. And the Srimad Bhagavatam explains that happiness of the soul to the highest dimensions of ecstatic love. Ecstatic love for the personality of Godhead, up to the point of the ecstatic love of the residents of Vrindavan, the gopis and Sri Radha for Krishna. And in each of these levels of ecstatic love for Krishna, Krishna is not only telling us, but through his devotees, he's showing us what to do and how to do it. And it's tendency of the human mind when something is difficult, we think it can't be done. Krishna so kindly puts his devotees, those who he trusts and who have complete trust in him, Krishna puts his devotees in difficulties much beyond anything we could go through, to show they never give up. There's a beautiful purport in this chapter where Srila Prabhupada is describing how Krishna can reach the limits of the unlimited. Material existence is limited, but Krishna's glories are unlimited. The jiva is limited. The Paramatma is unlimited. But yet by the unlimited power of the Paramatma, Krishna could make the unlimited known to the limited. In other words, the limited realizes the unlimited. So Brahma, he's our guru. Not just a guru, he's the first guru of our parampara. Most powerful being. But yet, even he felt helpless. In fact, he was perplexed. But he was not discouraged. He meditated on the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Vachahure mana Srinandanandana abhay charanadavindare. The poet Govinda Das is praying, my dear mind, please worship Srinandanandan. Because by finding the shelter of Srinandanandan's lotus feet, you become fearless. When the eternal soul is identifying with a temporary body in a world of endless changes, in this material existence, one of the constant truths is that everything is always changing. But nahanyate hanyamane sarine. The soul is not changing. But when the soul is identifying with its temporary material existence, then fear is inevitable. Sometimes it's prominent, sometimes it's dormant, but it's all pervading, it's everywhere within this material existence. Different people, according to different natures with different experiences, they respond to fear in different ways. But fear for a devotee is a positive blessing. To awaken the intensity of the need to take shelter of the Lord. So in this way, it's not actually material fear. So Brahma, he was perplexed because it was beyond even his limited capacity to figure out a solution to this problem independently. But he knew with faith that the solution to all problems is in taking shelter of the Lord. So he meditated on Vishnu. And from his nose, the size of a thumb, a little boar came out. It's very mysterious. He rose into the air, into the sky, and rapidly grew bigger and bigger until he was the size of an elephant, then the size of a Himalayan mountain. And Brahma and all the sages and rishis who were assembled with him, they were wondering, who is this? What is this? And seeing their situation, this mighty form of the Lord roared. His roaring was like thunder. But it didn't create fear in their hearts. For anyone else, it would be like the fear of death. But for them, it was very sweet music. Because they were hearing the Lord. And the personality of Godhead, with his sharp hooves, he dove into the Garbhodak ocean. And with the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a boar, he was searching for the earth by its fragrance. This is a special quality of Mother. The element of earth is fragrance. So he was smelling. He was smelling in the air, then he dove underwater and he was smelling under the water. And he found Mother Earth and lifted her up and brought her back to her natural place. And when he came out of the ocean, Brahma, the demigods, the great sages, they all had darshan of this magnificent form of Varahadev, balancing the earth between his two tusks. And in their prayers, they pray that the earth is your wife and you are the husband. She is everyone's mother and you are everyone's father. And we exist because of this relationship between the mother and the father, spiritually and physically as well. And we find that the mother is directly nourishing the child. She is through the potency of the Father, the whole body develops within the body of the Mother. She's nourished in the womb and immediately outside of the womb by the food provided by the Mother. So to honor the Mother and to honor the principle of motherhood is one of the most inseparable truths of Dharma. And to understand the relationship of the Mother and the Father. Several of the prominent incarnations we find here, Mother Earth was in desperation. And the great devotees of the Lord, they prayed to the Supreme Lord to protect her. Because without protecting her, there's no possibility of protecting all the living beings who are her children. Sarvayoni shakonteya murtaya samavantiya aham bija pradapita. All living beings are born of nature, and I am the seed-giving Father of Mother Nature. And that same Mother Earth, who was the Lord's wife, appeared as the daughter of Mother Earth, as Sita, the wife, the eternal wife and consort of Lord Sri Ramchandra. In Krishna's Leela, Mother Earth took the form of a mother cow and prayed to Brahma and others to approach Krishna to protect her children. This story is being spoken by Maitreya Rishi to Vidura. Maitreya Rishi was one of the dearmost friends and associates of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The most celebrated disciple of Narada Muni, who is directly a disciple of Lord Brahma. The exalted position of Maitreya can be appreciated by the historical event when Krishna was about to leave this world. He attracted Maitreya Rishi to come, to be in his association, along with Uddhava, to hear his instructions. Vidura, he was on his great pilgrimage. So many years he was wandering. The injustices that were inflicted upon him. When we hear the story of Vidura, we may appreciate it, but these stories are meant to take very personally. People ask, why does God do bad things to good people? Vidura lost everything. He was insulted. Not only was he insulted, but the way he was insulted. It was by his own nephew, who was actually brought up and raised. They were together. It's kind of like a joint family. Hastinapur, they lived together in the same palace environment. Vidura was there from his birth. Vidura was always his well-wisher of all of, we can say, his nephews or his sons. To be insulted, to be condemned by your own nephew, and then his brother, who he gave his life to serve, Dhritarashtra. Vidura was a great devotee. Why did he tolerate so much? Out of his affection for Dhritarashtra, according to the will of the Lord, he remained a faithful minister and faithful servant of Dhritarashtra, even through all of Dhritarashtra's mistakes, offenses. He remained a well-wisher. And yet, he's being insulted in such a way. The Bhagavatam describes it was like flaming arrows shooting into his heart, the harsh words of Duryodhana. And he was condemned. If not for Vidura's, his particular, in many ways, detail of how he was born, he would have been the king. Dhritarashtra was disqualified because he was blind physically. But he was very unqualified. Vidura was perfectly, extraordinarily qualified. But he was disqualified just because of the caste of his mother. Yet Vidura gave his life to honor and serve the mission of the king. With such loyalty, such faithfulness, without ever betraying his devotion to Krishna, without ever compromising his dharma. He was in a very mysterious situation. He was always speaking the truth, on the side of the truth, in loving service to Krishna, even if when he was in an environment of so much pollution. Why would Krishna put him in a situation like that? And why would he stay? Actually, because he stayed, he saved the lives of the Pandavas and Kunti many times. He was doing it all to please Krishna. And then he was ordered with ferocious envy that you must leave this place. And the only thing I will permit you to take with you is your breath. That means his wife, his family, his palace, his homes, all his security, everything. And he's actually an elderly man. Wasn't just like a brahmachari going out on a pilgrimage. The Pandavas, the Kurus, they were all grown up. They had children. He was like a grandfather age. It may have been perplexing, but he was not discouraged. So here they are meeting. I believe they actually met at Haridwar, Rishikesh, on the bank of the river Ganga. And Maitreya is explaining this beautiful story to Vidura. Just 2 days back we celebrated Ram Navami. And as I'm reading this beautiful chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, of how devotees take shelter of the Lord, I'm thinking this is such a theme of Ramayana. The reciprocal nature of the Lord's love for his devotees. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, abandon all varieties of dharma and just surrender to me. According to Hanuman's surrender, Lord Ram confessed to him that I'm living here in the forest. I have nothing to give you in return. You've given your life to me. You've abandoned everything in your life to serve me, to please me. All I have to give is myself. And Hanuman, in certain ways, was doing like what Varaha Dev did. Sita, the supreme wife of the Lord, like Mother Earth. Sita was, the earth was at the bottom of an ocean, and Sita was an island in the middle of an ocean. Varaha, the Mother Earth, was cast there by being exploited by Hiranyaksha. And Sita was in the ocean by the exploitation of Hiranyaksha's elder brother, Hiranyakashipu. And they were both trapped. And Lord Brahma, he prayed to Krishna to come as Varaha Dev. And Hanuman, in that spirit of being the servant of Ram, he was actually given the order by Sugriva to find Sita. Ram gave him the ring because he knew he would find Sita. But it was under Sugriva's instruction that he embarked on that mission among so many others. And the beautiful story how he leapt across the ocean. And we're just reflecting because Varaha jumped into the ocean. But it's interesting because the idea of an ocean means without limits. An ocean is something very, very big. It's beyond our capacity. And Varaha, he searched through the ocean to find Mother Earth, the Lord's consort. And Hanuman jumped across the ocean, and then on that island in the ocean, he searched and searched and searched and found Sita, the consort of the Lord. And as the representative of the Lord, who abandoned all varieties of religion, what does it mean to surrender? In the example of Hanuman, it means to please the Lord, to serve the Lord in a way that the Lord is pleased. In the verse before this today, there's a very powerful statement spoken by Maitreya Rishi and beautifully elaborated on by Srila Prabhupada. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. This is the consciousness being taught to us by the Lord and by all of these great devotees. Samsiddhir Haritoshana. The only true pleasure of the soul, the only real goal of life, the very perfection of life itself, is pleasing the Lord. And for one who achieves pleasing the Lord, that person understands everything else to be insignificant. This prayer of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagatisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatat bhakti rohoite ki tvai. That I just want to please you and serve you. Everything else is insignificant. The greatest goal of life, the Purushartha Siromani, is to love God. And what does it mean to love God? It means to give one's body, mind, soul, one's everything to please the Lord. Jivera Swarupoy Krishnadar Nityadas. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the spirit soul as eternally a servant of Krishna. This is our tattva in relation to the material existence. We are tatashta. We're spiritual by nature. But we're part and parcel. We're just each soul is a spark of the supreme, limitless nature of God. But also this principle of being an eternal servant of the Lord means that our only true happiness, our only true reality is in pleasing the Lord. There's only one thing that pleases the Lord. Bhaktya mama bijanati, bhaktya tvananya shakya. And that's to love the Lord. To please the Lord is to love the Lord. And to love the Lord means to value nothing else in comparison to pleasing the Lord. And when we understand and when we're striving or living by these principles, that is seva. Seva is a profound concept. Of putting the value of pleasing the Lord by our loving service above everything else. In fact, in this beautiful verse, one who pleases the Lord sees everything else as insignificant. And how much was that Hanumanji's state of consciousness? He jumped across the ocean. Surasa, Simika, the great Minda mountain. So many temptations, so many obstacles, so many apparently impassable obstructions. Then he met Lankini. Then he was searching in Sri Lanka. And then he found Sita. And as Varaha captured his wife, rescued, as Varaha rescued his wife, Bhumi Devi, when Hanuman said, "I will take you back to Ram, just jump on my back, I'll take you." Sita in her love and her surrender, no. This is something that should be Ram directly. It is his will to do this. We could also meditate on Dasarath Maharaj. Lord Ram is the Maryada Purushottam, is taking the role of a human, showing us how to perform dharma. And he literally, to protect the honor of his father, he was willing to give up everything in his life. Sarva dharman parityasya. Lord Ram is willing to do this for his devotee. What was Ram's life? He was going to live his kingdom. He was going to leave his role His dharma was to be the king. Sarva dharma. He was renouncing his kingdom. He abandoned all varieties of dharma. He was abandoning. He was going to abandon his life as the king, his home, his family. And he was willing, and it was his intention initially, even his wife Sita and his brother Lakshman and everything. And he was ready to go to the forest, abandoning his entire life for his devotee, Dasarath. And of course, Sita and Lakshman insisted on coming. But he was willing to go alone. So yes, he was abandoning everything in life for his devotee Dasarath. And it's an interesting meditation. But Dasarath, he gave up everything in his life, in his surrender to Ram. How did he surrender? Just by remembering him and chanting the name of Ram. He gave up his body. Ram abandoned everything in his life for Dasarath, and Dasarath abandoned his life itself for Ram. It is a loving reciprocation. And ultimately Dasarath, in his pangs of separation from the Lord, in the fire of that separation, he achieved the eternal embrace in the spiritual abode of the Lord. Today's verse, it is describing how rare and fortunate one is to have the human form of life. And the value of a human life is in according to how we value the goal of life. The Purushartha Siromani, the true wealth, the true goal. Anandam Buddhivardhanam, the true happiness, is to please Krishna. And in order to live through this world, where from within and without there are so many obstacles and so many temptations and so many distractions, it is so important to have the association of devotees that we could hear and chant in the association with. Durlava Manava Janama Satsanga. Human life is most rare. But the most valuable thing in human life is when, by the grace of Krishna, we can associate with devotees of Krishna. And by hearing these beautiful narrations, we developed values. We understand what is our purpose. In the association of devotees, by hearing the glories and the teachings of the Lord, we could navigate through the endless distractions of material existence. Srila Prabhupada gives an example But when you get on a train, you get on a train to reach a destination. And really the value of the train is according to how it takes you to your destination. So if our train ride is going to be 2 or 3 hours, it really doesn't matter so much which seat we're sitting on. What really matters is we're moving toward our destination. And Srila Prabhupada describes that's what the human life is. It's a train that is meant to actually bring us to our goal of eternal happiness by pleasing the Lord. But unfortunately, when we forget the very purpose of the train, or plane, people fight over the seat. Here in India, I think you have really good observations. Have you ever seen people fighting over a seat? Fighting for oneself, fighting for one's children. We're fighting over the seat. And sometimes we fight so much, we die. That's what all the wars of the world are, practically. People fighting over their seat. This is my seat. This. And somebody else wants to usurp. Or somebody else is claiming it as mine. And sometimes, but we don't understand. We're only going to be on the train for a couple hours. Is it worth getting in so many arguments and fights with people? You may kill each other and then not reach your destination. Or you may hurt each other and then the train stops and the police come and put you in prison. It's just a couple hours. The reality is eternity. And this human life is just such a small little piece. At the most, in Kali Yuga, we live 100 years. If you're in England, the Queen or the King gives you a trophy when you live 100 years. But when you're that old, usually there's nobody around that you even know that's still alive that you can show it to. Your eyes are, usually you can't even see it properly. And how long could you enjoy that trophy? Still, it's a good thing. Living long life has its... But the value of our life is the quality. Sukadeva Goswami tells better one moment of full consciousness of pleasing Krishna and loving Krishna than long, long life. Some of the greatest personalities only lived very young. And there are trees that are thousands of years old. So yes, the soul is eternal. Material nature is eternal. Spiritual nature is eternal. Eternality is reality. But within material nature, everything is constantly changing. So there's just changes within eternality. Death is just a change of circumstances. The soul still exists. And the elements of material nature, the energy that it is all resting on, is always existing. So we have this human body, this human form of life. Sometimes the soul has to pass through 8 million species to reach it. And then through hundreds and thousands of human lives, we finally may get the association of those devotees of the Lord who are teaching us where the train is destined and where we're supposed to go. And don't implicate yourself in all the types of karmas of fighting over your seat. We fight over property. There's wars. We fight over control. Control of property, control of people. Conflict. Because we're all individuals, there is inevitable differences of interest. But human life, animals are like that too, and insects, and reptiles, and even the plants. The survival mode is very powerful wherever there's life in this creation. But the human life is special. Because by hearing, and in this chapter actually Srila Prabhupada explains how Krishna performs his pastimes in this world and then leaves behind the narrations of these pastimes, which are non-different than the Lord himself, to give us this guidance. Long ago, Varahadev appeared in his Varaha avatar. But today, through the narration, the exact same potency, power, and presence of the Lord is there. He leaves behind himself in the form of the narrations. And Srila Prabhupada, the narration of the activities of the personality of Godhead is like a constant flow of nectar. That's how much he's valuing Krishna Katha. Otherwise, we're just fighting over these temporary things that we only have access to for a very small amount of time. Everything's taken away. The earth is our mother. We usually call the nation that we live our motherland. But when we understand the Supreme Father and the relation of the mother and the father, and our relation with our mother and our father eternally, then we actually can understand the science, the art of how to live and why to live. Before we can truly have a conviction of how to live, we need to know why to live. And in order to really have a conviction of why to live, we have to understand who to live for. And this is why it's so important to absorb ourselves in hearing the teachings, the pastimes, the glories of the Supreme Personality of God. So that we really understand the value of this train is not which seat we're on and who we're competing with for the seat. But the value of the train is that we remain on it in such a way that we reach our destination. Back home, back to Godhead. From this perspective, ata pumbir vijasreshtas varna shrama vibhagasha shonushtatasya dharmasya samsiddhyaraditoshana. Whatever our occupation, whatever our ashram, the true goal of life really is to develop a taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, for serving the Lord and pleasing the Lord. Because nothing else really has much value at all. Nothing, to the extent we have a taste for pleasing Krishna, all the distractions and all the temptations are actually insignificant. Why are they so insignificant? Because the happiness of pleasing Krishna is so supremely, limitlessly significant. Param dristva nivartate. As we're Krishna conscious, all the other things of this world, in the execution of our duties and everything else, they become insignificant. But yet, when those insignificant things are seen in relationship with Krishna and engaged for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, then those things become significant. When we understand this material world, trying to enjoy on any level is insignificant. But when we see it as Krishna's energy, Krishna's nature, and utilize it, our intelligence, our abilities, for Krishna's pleasure, through our loving service, through our aspiration for loving service, Krishna sees that as limitlessly significant. To the world, what is one flower petal. But if it's offered with love and devotion to please Radha Gopinath, then Krishna sees that flower petal with unlimited value, because it's offered with the love of my devotee. He never forgets it. Neha Vikramanasosti. Any act of sincere devotion in God's eyes is eternal. In Ramayana, Shabari, what did she have to offer Ram? There are so many great queens, kings, powerful, wealthy, skillful, brilliant people throughout history. We don't hear about most of them. But even ages later, I don't think there's anybody in India that doesn't know a Shabari. Yes? Last night I was at an event, quite late actually, but one professor from Harvard University was there, and he was saying the stories of Ram, because it's just after Ram Navami, he said every single person in India practically, we know every one of those stories. He said we were born and raised hearing the stories. But how unique and special it is to hear it from a perspective of devotional service. That's what he was explaining. The stories we know, but the devotional meanings of the stories, it gives newness and freshness, specialness. Shabari, what did she offer to Ram? She just offered those little berries with love. And in reciprocation to her attempt to love, she was just wearing tree bark in a cave. Ram gave her the highest perfection of life. Because for Shabari, nothing else was really significant except pleasing the Lord. And even though what she offered him was a material thing, but the love in which she offered to Ram, that was so significant. After Lord Ramchandra conquered Ravana, there was Sri Lanka. It's the most opulent city in the world. In many ways, most all of the universe. Ravana was so powerful, he stole the wealth of Kuvera, the treasure of the demigods. He conquered and stole the wealth of Indra from the heavens. It's unimaginable what Sri Lanka looked like. You know, Ravana's or any of his ministers, their bathroom was more opulent than the greatest palaces of the kings in this world. Everything was gold and jewels. And in fact, after Ravana Ram conquered Ravana. Conquered his entire army. The most beautiful, opulent, majestic place, palaces, gardens, they all now were Ram's. What did he take with him? The only thing he took with him from Lanka was Sita. He fought that whole battle and didn't keep anything. In fact, he gave all of it to Ravana's brother, Vibhishan, who was a devotee. He didn't take or enjoy anything in Sri Lanka. But how he enjoyed those little fruits of Shabri. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.